Aloha and welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about malware. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the mislead and hide types. So let's go ahead and jump into the content here. So malware. So we're talking again, mislead and hide type. So the ones we're going to be talking about at first is the Trojan, the remote access Trojan, the rats, as we call them, and the potentially unwanted programs, PUPs. So Trojans are a type of malware. If you've heard yet about the Trojan horses, that's where this comes from. It's a Trojan horse. Basically, you've got a piece of software that you've downloaded. It does the legitimate software function. Let's say it's a game or maybe it's a utility application or something like that. You download it thinking that you're using it for what you're using it for. Everything seems to go right, but what you don't realize is that Trojan, in addition to performing that legitimate function, is also going to be stealing information or causing damage. So a good example of that is the XAFE copy Trojan that infected Android devices through battery optimization apps. So people would download it for this battery optimization, seemed to work, but it also subscribed them to unwanted paid services at the same time. So that is a nasty little thing. So one specific type of Trojan called a remote access Trojan, which is a rat, and it's properly named. They are really nasty little things. That one gives an attacker remote access to an infected device. So a rat can be used again to gain information, can change the device settings, or it can install other malware. And a good example of that was a nation state actor, the Syrian government. So the Syrian government used the Dark Comet rat to spy on Syrian citizens. So that one was distributed as a PDF file. When the user opened the file, the Dark Comet infected the user's device. So they used that to, spy on dissidents and people that were against the regime at the time. The least concerning of these, but still concerning, is something called a PUP. And a PUP is a potentially unwanted program. So it's a type of software that a user considers unnecessary, but doesn't intentionally cause damage on the computer. So a PUP is usually installed with other software. For example, a user might install a Chrome extension that searches for digital coupons, but the extension also installs adware that displays pop-up ads when the user goes to certain sites, and that's really annoying. So we're going to look at an example of a rat here. This one's going to be short. So user downloads free antivirus software. There's a lot of free antivirus software out there, and you really have to be careful of this. So then the software includes hidden malware that gives an attacker remote access to the infected device, so they can remote access it in there. And then the attacker can remotely command the infected device to scan for open ports. List of open ports is returned to the attacker. Then the attacker can use one of those open ports to hack into the system. So yeah, that's why it's the remote access Trojan. Um, then we have you just answer questions here that identify which type. So I'll let you go through that on your own. Then we get into the hide type, which is backdoor and logic bombs. And the backdoor and logic bombs are kind of scary. So the backdoor is a type of malware that enables the unauthenticated access to a device. So you think of this like software. Some in the old days, software programmers might put in a backdoor that would allow them to get around whatever it is to work on something to fix it. Or sometimes it was malicious. Maybe they want to be able to get into it and modify things. If it was a game or something like that, it'd be kind of neat if you could go in through a backdoor and give yourself a bunch of extra experience or gold coins or whatever it is that it's using. So backdoors had a purpose like that. The unfortunate thing is most evil people out there, they can figure out ways of scanning and finding those backdoors. So backdoors are big vulnerabilities. So a backdoor, it's going to allow an attacker to bypass the regular authentication procedures. It's usually included as part of a larger malware package. So for example, Xcode Spy, Xcode being an iOS app development system, Xcode Spy is used to attack iOS app developer systems. When Xcode Spy infects a device, a backdoor called Eggshell is also installed. The attacker can use the Eggshell backdoor to command the target developer's microphone, camera, and keyboard. And that is scary. Having it where somebody can be, well, right now you're looking at me through the camera, but imagine if somebody else was able to look through the camera at you whenever they wanted to. And that's kind of what happened on the video that I sent the other day. The first video, the second example where the hacker was able to turn on the guy's camera and microphone and caught him at, doing different things, like he was at the Starbucks or something like that. So yeah, that's a scary kind of attack. So another one is a logic bomb. So logic bombs are malware that activates an attack when specific conditions are met. So a good example of that is like they give one here: a Siemens contractor inserted logic bombs on Siemens systems so that Siemens would have to hire the contractor to fix the system. So logic bomb damaged the Siemens spreadsheets on certain specified dates. They figured it out eventually, and he was arrested. But yeah, this kind of stuff happens. There's another type where, let's say, I think this is an actual case where somebody set up a logic bomb to check and make sure that the guy that wrote it was still hired. So if he ever got fired, he wanted this thing to go in and basically erase files and do damage to the system. So you can set that up. So that's kind of a nasty thing. And these are called logic bombs because they depend on logic, like, going out there and checking every day, hey, am I still hired? If not, then blow everything up, hence the bomb part. So we're going to look at the backdoor and logic bomb here. So we're going to start here. So attack by fired employee Devon. So he's going to open up TC port 1661 here. So it says while employed, he installs a backdoor on a company computer. The backdoor opens TCP port 16661. Then when Devon is fired, Devon can connect to the port 16661 and send a command to delete important files. So you see how he does that. And then alternatively, he could install a logic bomb, which is going to be self-actuating. And then every day it's going to check whether Devin is still on the company payroll. If it is, then no problem. If he isn't, then the logic bomb is going to execute an attack and delete the important files. So that's how this type of thing works. Quite nasty. So go ahead and go through here, look at the situation, select the proper one. Now we're talking about hiding, and we're talking about rootkits. Rootkits are kind of insidious. So a rootkit is a type of malware that provides administrative or root access to a computing device without the permission or detection. So a rootkit is going to be designed to either install, hide, or prevent the removal of malware. It can allow an attacker to use the device to attack other devices. It can create a backdoor that allows an attacker to access confidential data. So a good example of this is the Sony BMG rootkit. This is an actual rootkit that was made by a company, by Sony BMG, and they did this to enforce their copyright protection. So the rootkit was installed on a computer when a Sony CD was inserted, because back in the day we could actually put it into a CD player on the computer and it would play. But what this did was it would put in a rootkit, and the rootkit would modify the operating system to interfere with the CD copying and hide the rootkit's presence. The reason they did this was they didn't want people copying their CDs. So this is kind of stepping up, and this really was a fine line because this isn't legal. So they later came out with a way of removing the rootkit from their system. But it was pretty amazing that a company would go that far to make sure that somebody wasn't stealing their software or their intellectual property, their music. So several types of rootkits exist. A rootkit is classified by the injection location. So for example, a kernel rootkit targets a device's operating system, and an application rootkit alters an application's executable file so the rootkit runs when the application is started, kind of like the way a virus works. So a kernel, just know that a kernel is like the core part of an operating system. It's the you'll learn about this later, but it's just think of it as part of the core functionality in the operating system. So going over here, hit start. Malware package, you got spyware and rootkit. So malware is installed on a computer after a user clicks on a malicious link. So the rootkit embeds itself in the operating system and monitors commands to the operating system. So it's the rootkit's sitting here on top of the operating system, and it's just listening for commands. So what's going to happen is the user requests a process list to search for malware. So they're looking to see, hey, do we have any malware on here? So the rootkit is going to intercept that incoming request. It's going to alter the results so it doesn't actually give away the spyware processes. So it's going to hide itself. So that's the insidious part of it. So it gets to hide the fact that it's actually running. So you can go ahead and answer the questions over here. This is a little bit tricky. I was kind of disappointed with this. So which type of rootkit runs before the operating system? We haven't talked about it, but it's firmware. That's a little bit. They didn't mention that here. I thought that was kind of an unfair question. But as you're going through here, click on the wrong answers to see why it isn't the ones they're talking about. So. Yeah, try that. So a kernel rootkit targets the operating system. The rootkit is embedded in the operating system, so the rootkit runs when the operating system runs. So that's why the kernel one wouldn't be the correct one there, because it's before that actually runs. So the firmware is actually on the hardware itself, and that's why this one is applicable. But I thought it was kind of not a good question to have because they haven't discussed firmware and everything else. So yeah. So anyway, go ahead through this, and if you want to explore more about those different types of Trojans and whatnot that they had, do go click on these and take a look because they're really interesting stories. Sadly, I know a lot of these because I saw them when they happened. I remember Dark Comet. I remember the Logic Bomb from the Siemens contractor. I remember the Michelangelo virus and the Sony rootkit. I mean, these all happened during my lifetime, and seeing that was kind of, it was always amazing because it's like, oh wow, they've got this new thing that they can do, and you find that even today there's still, new hacks, new things that are coming out all the time. So cybersecurity is always changing. It's always, refreshing itself. There's new things to learn. It's really exciting. So anyway, that is it for this section on malware, mislead, and hide. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here for all your questions. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Aloha.